Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. Today I thought I'd just do a little nice cozy video. I know what you're probably thinking, we're coming into summer now and I'm still wearing jumpers. What's that all about? I'm drinking tea like I'm about to spill some in some kind of popular YouTube trend from several years ago, and I've done my hair in what looks to me now like it's inspired by Carole Baskin. I'm getting serious Carole Baskin vibes from this. Totally not intentional, but we're just gonna go with it. I've discovered that my lockdown love language is basically comfort. So if that means I'm gonna wear sweaters in the middle of summer, whatever. If I'm gonna drink tea in the middle of the day, even though I don't usually drink tea, this is like a kind of green tea with cherry bakewell in it that I found in the back of the cupboard. Whatever, let's go for it. If I'm gonna find a headband I wore years ago when I was overly dressed up in a costume, let's go with it. Whatever makes us happy. So if you're watching along and you want to comment down below what things have been making you happy, even though they're a little bit weird, go ahead, feel free to go ahead and let me know what's keeping you cheered up on days like today. This is my little alien mug. If you've watched any of my videos where I've mentioned Disney pretty much ever, you'll know how much I love this alien. And then on the other side, I've got my eyes on you. It was after I went to see the Speak Now tour that I picked up this mug. And that's why I can exactly remember what day it was, where I was, and all of that good stuff. I love this mug so much, and I'm really enjoying tea at the moment. I'm not much of a tea drinker usually. Really enjoying it at the moment. Anyways, let's get on with the video. Basically, I love musical theatre. I love watching it. I enjoyed being in it when I did do musical theatre myself, and I enjoy watching other people talk about it on YouTube. Now, I am blanking on so many names right now of so many people that I enjoy watching who talk about musical theatre, but if that's something you enjoy too, I'll leave a link down below to their channel so you can go and check them out and hear them talk about musical theatre a lot more knowledgeably than this video is going to be. So basically what I did today was I went online knowing that I wanted to talk about musical theatre today and needed some prompts, and I literally just put into Google the musical theatre tag. And I found a set of questions, so I'm going to go through them today and we can have a good chat about musical theatre, hopefully. If you enjoy musical theatre too, let me know down below any of your thoughts on any of these questions. Let's continue the conversation, and I hope you enjoy. So I'm just going to get my phone out and check where I found this musical theatre tag. It was on English Rose from Manchester's blog, and I'll probably link to her answers as well, just to give her a bit of credit for this. Thank you for being the top result when you put in the musical theatre tag. What was the first musical you ever saw? The first one I think I saw was Joseph, probably. I'm trying to think if I went to see musicals before I knew musicals were a thing. Joseph was the first time I went to see a musical and knew what a musical was. But it's possible. Oh, no, it's Phantom of the Opera. I went to see Phantom of the Opera as my first show that I ever saw. This was a musical, but I didn't know at the time what a musical was. I was 7 years old and me and my family were on holiday, and it just so happened at the time that we were on holiday, Phantom of the Opera was on at this theatre. So my mum and dad were like, oh, we'd love to go and see it again. So they decided to get tickets, and they decided that I, at 7 years old, was also old enough to maybe appreciate Phantom of the Opera. So when I was 7, I went to see Phantom of the Opera, and I don't really remember much of it. We were so far forward that we could feel the flames on our faces when the show was going on and stuff. The chandelier seemed to come really close to our heads. And the only other thing I remember is that on the way home I was proper sobbing and going, oh, poor Phantom of the Opera, because I seemed to really get into that plot a lot. So Phantom of the Opera was the first musical that I saw, but Joseph was the first show that I saw that I knew was a musical. I did not know what a musical was until I saw Joseph. I saw Joseph because I was going to be in my school production of Joseph. I ended up being the narrator. If you want to hear a funny story of what happened on the stage one night when I was the narrator. I'll link it up above somewhere. I don't know what side it's going to be, but yeah, it looked like one night I was just casually making a campfire at the side of the stage during the show, during Close Every Door to Me. There was a reason for that. If you want to hear that story, I'll link it up above and down below so you can check that out. Next question is, what was your favourite musical growing up? I'd probably say it was Joseph. Like, for a long time after I saw Joseph and after I was in Joseph, I felt like a hardcore fan of Joseph. I really enjoyed it. I especially enjoyed it again when the BBC show Any Dream Will Do came out. For those of you who aren't familiar with it or maybe don't live in the UK, that was basically a show where Andrew Lloyd Webber was on a hunt to find the next Joseph, and it was like a kind of talent reality show type thing, and then a few of the runners-up were on like the UK tour as well and things like that. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed seeing that and learning more about Joseph and things. So just purely because it was the show that I knew the most about, my favourite was probably Joseph. But then I also really enjoyed shows that I'd seen recently and shows that I'd been in and things. So, for example, one of my favourites even now is West Side Story. And I was never in West Side Story, but a few of my friends were in West Side Story, and when I went to see that, I was like, I love this show. So, West Side Story, Joseph. I liked Chicago as well. It was quite a while before I got to see Chicago, but there was also like a reality TV search for somebody to be in Chicago as well. So I enjoyed that when that was on, and then a few years later I finally got to see Chicago, and I really enjoyed that one, but I think it's fair to say that Joseph took the top position when I was growing up. Was I ever in a musical? Yes, I was. My first show was Joseph, which was a school production, and then after that I started doing amateur dramatics in the local area and stuff. We got to play in the local theatre, which just seemed so amazing to me. My first show that was like on the big stage in the local area was Jesus Christ Superstar. I enjoyed that so much, and then I joined like a kids theatre group and kind of done that throughout my teenage years and really, really enjoyed it. Yeah. What was the first musical you ever saw on Broadway? I feel like that's a very geographic, specific question. I've only ever been to New York once, and when I went to New York, I saw Kinky Boots. In terms of the West End, I think it was Beautiful, the Carole King musical, but I could be wrong. Edinburgh has quite a musical selection. There's quite a few theatres going on. So if we're counting Edinburgh as like my local Broadway, then my first show was Beauty and the Beast, and I really, really loved that. I remember watching it, and I didn't know much about shows at the time and things like that, how they came together and stuff. So just seeing the set pieces fly into place was amazing to me. I could see the conductor in front of me, and if I turned behind me, I could see the camera of the guy conducting so that the actors could see him keeping time and things. I thought that was absolutely amazing. Yeah, good memories of seeing Beauty and the Beast. I think I was about 12 when I saw that, and it stuck with me. I really, really felt so fancy going to the theatre and seeing a proper show. If you could be any female character in any musical, who would you be and why? Now, I find this question quite hard to answer because there are definitely some characters that stand out to me as having like amazing songs and amazing moments in musicals, but I wouldn't necessarily want to play them for the entire show. Like if someone else could play the rest of their scenes and I'll just like stand in and do the big song, that'd be great. The only exception I can think of in terms of me being interested in playing a character for anything other than singing, because that's what I like the most, is the cell block tango in Chicago. I would love to be able to dance well enough to do the cell block tango in Chicago. I think in terms of singing and in terms of what they have to do in the whole show, I think I'd have to pick Fantine from Les Mis. She has I Dreamed a Dream fairly early on into the show, and then she pretty much dies. Sorry, spoiler alert, but if you don't know Les Mis, where have you been? Fantine doesn't really stick around for long, and then I can just kind of go back to being in the back of the chorus or something later. I think that would be good, and she also has like a nice like harmony that she does like near the end of the show that I really, really like as well. I didn't actually look at these questions in advance, So these are like my fresh answers to them. Okay, so the next question is the same, but this time it's which male character would you be? This was hard enough to pick for female characters, but for male characters, I don't really look at them so much. I don't really think, oh, I'd love to be them, because like I know there's absolutely zero chance of being cast. The only one that's really coming to mind right now is the dentist in Little Shop of Horrors. That's just such a great comedy role, and again, he's not in it for too long, and then you can kind of go back to being in the chorus or whatever like that. I don't really mind being in the chorus so much. But yeah, the dentist has an amazing song. He's such a sadistic dentist. Again, if you're not familiar with the show, I'll link it down below, like if I can find a link of this song, because it's such a good song. The only other one I was really thinking of, and it's gone from my head now, but I was remembering it as I was speaking about the dentist, Judas from Jesus Christ Superstar. The reason I would like to be him is because he has this amazing song, Heaven on Their Minds, and that's right near the beginning of the show, if I remember correctly. So if I could sing Heaven on Their Minds and then someone else can take over as Judas, that would be cool with me. Next question is my favourite musical song to sing in the shower. And I do a lot of singing in the shower. When I was a theatre kid, it would basically be any songs from the show that I was in or a show that I was auditioning for. Like, I'd try and keep it to those ones. One of my favourites, but I haven't sang it in a long time, is, I think it's called You're Oh So from A Slice of Saturday Night. And that's basically like this girl just telling off this guy in a nightclub because he's just so full of himself. Like, he looks into her eyes and, you know, she likes to think that he's thinking about her, but actually he's just thinking about how good he looks and things like that. That's just such a fun song to sing. What else do I enjoy singing? Over the Rainbow, but like Over the Rainbow, the Eva Cassidy version, so I'm not sure that really counts. Sometimes I've sang Les Mis songs, but I don't really like Les Mis as a show, just the songs. And I would love to be able to sing things like anything from Phantom of the Opera, but I don't have the range for that, or like The Power or anything, because singing is hard, guys. Singing is hard. The next questions I'm not going to spend too much time on because I don't really have any thoughts on these. My favourite theatre actress and my theatre actor. Honestly, I don't really have any favourites. I go to see the shows because they are shows as opposed to who's in them. So I don't really have anyone that I go and see. Like, you never find me reading the cast list and being like, oh, I need to go and see that person in this. It's just not something I do, so I'm just going to go past them because I'm not sure I can name many people. Next question is favourite film adaptation of a musical, and honestly I tend to avoid these because I think it's better to see them on the stage. I tend to just get disappointed when I see film versions of things that I love. The only real exception I have is On the Town, because I've never seen the show On the Town. I've only ever seen the movie because it doesn't really get put on that often. I don't know if it's ever been to Edinburgh, or like if it's ever been in Edinburgh since I've discovered how much I enjoy it. The other one that I think is really well adapted is Chicago, because Chicago, there's points where Roxy kind of imagines things happening just to make it more interesting. When she's sitting in the cell block, there's the cell block tango and things like that. These are just happening in her mind. And I like the way that they adapted that, and they clearly showed that they were like her imagination instead of like real life things happening. I just thought that was done really well, but in general, I don't really seek out film adaptations of popular musicals. What do you think is the most underrated musical? Honestly, I've probably not heard of it. When it comes to like newer musicals and things like that, I don't seek out bootlegs or like listen to the soundtrack online and things like that. So I tend to just see them when I see them and when they're mega popular and things like that. In terms of ones that I've seen, I'd probably say that the most underrated is Beautiful, the Carole King musical, because I've heard a lot of people kind of write that off as a jukebox musical with not much thought put into it, but I thought it was really, really well done. It's not just the music of Carole King, it's the music of the people around her as well, and it's telling her life story in a way that really draws you in, so much so that at the show... So much so that at the first time I saw the show, there was like an hour delay because of a technical fault, and they basically had to decide whether they were continuing with the show without half of the set or whether they were just going to give up and send everybody home. And everybody was so into this show that nobody left. We were all quite happy to sit there for an hour just so we could find out what would happen. I really feel like that one's underrated because it's in the class of jukebox musical, but jukebox musicals can be done well as well, and I feel like that's a really good example of one. The next question is, what do I think is the most overrated musical? And I feel like it's basically any of the ones that are getting overexposed. Like, they're so good and everybody tells you they're so good, but then when you end up going to see them, you're disappointed because you were expecting something completely out of this world amazing based on what other people have said, but they're only really good, if that makes any sense. When I went to see Wicked, I found myself going out disappointed, and it's because everybody had told me how much they loved it, how amazing it was and things like that. I had such high expectations because of that. Do I hate Wicked? No, I don't hate Wicked. And I don't hate other shows in that are overly everywhere, like they're overexposed. But I feel like those shows become overrated because everybody loves them so much. I feel really bad saying Wicked because Wicked is a great show and I love the visuals and things like that, but it just didn't do it for me in the way that I hoped it would. Next question is, what musical made me cry? And honestly, I cry at the drop of the hat, so most musicals make me cry. If they don't make me cry, they probably didn't make me feel as much as they could have made me feel. In terms of things like Joseph doesn't make me cry, but that's like a kid's show. They don't want to make it too emotionally deep and too scary for kids as well. So I suppose that's why Joseph didn't make me cry. But generally, if a show doesn't make me cry at some point, at some moment, then it's probably not a show that I rate or one that I would go and see again and again. What musical made me laugh? Some of the old-fashioned ones have made me laugh in ways that I didn't think I would enjoy them. Like Anything Goes, I don't remember much about it, but when I went to see that, I really, really enjoyed it. And then Crazy for You, again, I don't remember much, but I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to go back the next night and see it again. So there's some shows that I think, oh, they're old, they're not going to be as good as new musicals. I was completely wrong. I really enjoyed seeing them, and I enjoyed them so much that I would go and see them again and things like that. There's a reason why they're classics. Are there any musicals you saw and hated? Yes, Cats. And I'm not sorry. I honestly hate Cats. I really did not enjoy Cats at all. The people who enjoy Cats seem to really, really enjoy Cats, and the people who don't enjoy Cats seem to really intensely dislike Cats. If you love Cats, that's amazing. That's great for you. I hope you enjoyed the movie and all the great things that have come from it, but I'm not one of those people. I don't like Cats. What musical do you want to see as a film? I don't know. I feel like most of the ones that I could name as ones that I'd enjoy are ones that already have film adaptations that I'm probably avoiding because I enjoy the musical so much. I think I'd just have to say Book of Mormon. What musical are you dying to see? So this one's a bit difficult because I don't really listen to musicals before I go and see them. I like to just go and see them, be pleasantly surprised, and kind of base my judgments on them based on what I see there. But that being said, I do have friends that enjoy musicals as well, and there's shows that I want to see because I know that they love them so much. So those shows at the moment would be things like Waitress. and Heathers. Heathers I really want to see because I've seen the film recently, and that was just so dark and twisted and not anything that I expected to happen. So I do really want to see Heathers. What else? 6. I'm surprised I've not seen 6 yet, because I really should have seen 6 by now. Just like the new ones that are coming up and people are enjoying. Come From Away. Really want to see Come From Away. Hamilton, just so I can see what all the fuss is about, because I don't really know anything about it. Dear Evan Hansen. Just the shows that everybody seems to be talking about at the moment, and I have absolutely no clue about because I don't follow these shows before I see them. Any movie or book you think should be turned into a musical? Well, I've just read Uglies again, and I feel like that's such an underrated story. But at the same time, I can see why there would be difficulties bringing alive such a dystopian world. Are there many musicals about like future and things like that? The only one that's really coming to mind is Starlight Express, but like it must be expensive trying to bring alive new worlds and things like that. When a movie or a book already exists of things, I think it's very difficult to translate that well into another form, although Shakespeare managed, but you know what I mean. And the last question is one that I'm dreading. What is your all-time favourite musical? Off the top of my head, things like West Side Story, Chicago, Jesus Christ Superstar. Always have a soft spot for Joseph. Lion King. Lion King is a recent favourite. I went to go and see it recently. Really enjoyed it. I'm not going to even try and make a list or try and figure out which one is top of all of them, because that's just going to be really, really difficult, and it changes all the time as well. So I can just imagine future Kate watching this video back and being like, why did you pick that musical? That's not your favourite, it's this. So I'm just going to avoid that altogether and say that probably most of the musicals in this tag, except Cats, are ones that I really enjoy. So I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on my favourite musicals, my not so favourite musicals, and I hope you enjoyed your tea if you were drinking along with me. If you have any thoughts that you want to share down below, or anything that you want to add to anything that I've said, put it down in the comments. I look forward to reading it, and thank you so much for watching, everyone. Cheerio! Thanks again for watching, everybody. If you're not quite done talking about musical theatre yet, check out some of my Theatre Kids stories up here, and YouTube have suggested a video you might enjoy over here. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with all my latest videos. Thanks again, everyone. Cheerio.